a two-day losing streak on Fed Day, and some investors may have liked to have seen a rate cut, but they had a good feel for which way the Fed Reserve would be going beforehand. Now, Chairman Jay Powell saying the Fed is ready to respond to any rise in unemployment or inflation. He also expressed uncertainty about tariff policy, saying the Fed will have to wait and see what impact the tariffs have. Meanwhile, Goldman Sachs is predicting 3 rate cuts this year starting in July, but Morgan Stanley doesn't think Powell and the Fed will cut rates until next year. Well, joining me here at the New York Stock Exchange to weigh in is Gabriela Berrospi, who's the founder of Latino Wall Street. Gabby, thank you so much for joining me here at the New York Stock Exchange.
Thank you, Remy, for having me. Yes, so the interest rate decision, I don't think it was a surprise. We follow the Fed watch closely, so we knew we had like a 99% chance or something it was going to stay the same. We know Jerome Powell is not on the same page with the president. Trump wants him to cut rates. He's been, pushing for that. So, we kind of need our leaders to start working together, get on the same page, so then we have more clarity, because we've had so much uncertainty this year, and that hasn't helped the markets that much.
Well, in New York morning trade, we are looking at green across the board for the Dow, NASDAQ, S&P 500. Later on this morning, Trump will be back in the Oval Office, and he will be making an announcement regarding a trade deal between the U.S. as well as the U.K. And, of course, the Treasury Secretary Bessent is heading to Switzerland. He will be meeting with Chinese officials as well. So what are your expectations when it comes to these deals? And do you expect to see more of a framework or actual numbers here?
So I think what's actually helping the markets today is more so the commercial agreements, right? The trade agreements that are going to be confirmed later today. So we know there's an agreement now with the UK, and this has been what the market has been waiting for, right? So kind of like, the Fed, we don't really have good news on that end. It's like a wait and see. But now with these trade agreements, they're also saying a lot more of them are coming up very soon, and they're in the final stages of negotiations. So I think these are great news. I think this will help the market a lot, and I think we'll just have to wait and see what do the agreements look like, right? Because it has to be a win-win.
Absolutely. And when we take a step back and look at the volatility for the month of April, you and I were talking throughout that month where we saw 1,000-point moves to the upside as well as downside for the Dow. But at the end of the day, when we look at where we are for all the major stock averages, it isn't as bad as expected. So given the macro landscape as we move forward for the rest of the year, what are your expectations when it comes to not just equities, but also bonds and other asset classes, especially this morning as we're looking at Bitcoin approaching 100K again?
Yeah, that's incredible. I think we're seeing a rush right now towards, specific assets. So of course, when the stock market is in the green, we're expecting trade agreements. They're about to be announced. That helps all risk assets, not just stocks, but also crypto. And also for gold, right? That has been the year of gold.
Yes.
With the more uncertainty we're going to have, the better gold is going to do. Now, it's been interesting because the pattern that's like stocks going up and gold going down and vice versa has been broken. So we're seeing something very similar than the pandemic. Actually reminds me of 2020 when the market crashed, and so did gold. So we have to remember that the correlations won't always be exact, but we can definitely expect that the more trade agreements we have, the better the assets in general will be. So we have to wait and see.
And in the meantime, while we're seeing this volatility and shift across the global landscape, there are also opportunities out there. So for viewers out there who are watching and they're looking for opportunities, where do you think they are right now?
So right now for me, the opportunities are definitely in commodities. That's what I'm focused on, because this year is so volatile that has been the winning trades, right? But you should never underestimate the main indexes, the S&P 500. If you're thinking very long term, like Warren Buffett says, right? I was just in Berkshire Hathaway with him at his annual conference. You're never going to lose if you stick to a super long-term strategy and you focus on what has worked for over 100 years. So never underestimate that. Always think long-term. But if you're looking short-term, what's going to do best, I really think commodities are the winning sector.
Okay, Gabby, great to have you here at the New York Stock Exchange. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you so much for sharing your insights.
Thank you, Remy.
My pleasure.